From the heart of the city too busy to hate. A progressive voice making too much sense for corporate media's comfort. This is The Ron Show, where we the people come first. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Hi, and thank you for listening, whether it's on Georgia Now, weekdays 4 to 6, 8 to 10 a.m. the following weekday morning, the replay, which will be Monday for this show, or 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn. However you found us, I'm just glad you did. Welcome aboard. Let's dive right on in. Let me do this breaking news here real quick. This dropped, let's see, by the time you're going to get to it, this is about 2:45 today. Caleb Groves at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. A federal judge in Macon dismissed a case Friday filed by the U.S. Department of Justice seeking sensitive information on Georgia voters. You, as a Georgia voter, should be thrilled by this. I mean, is it not bad enough that the folks now that are aligned with the DOJ in its current state were also the ones breaching the Coffee County elections office and getting sensitive voter data there, and, of course, the software that Dominion uses for their touch voting. Anyway, senior U.S. District Court Judge C. Ashley Royal ruled that the Trump administration filed its lawsuit against Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger in the wrong court. I want to say Ashley Madison, but that's the wrong name because that used to be the service you would go to the website to order yourself a date on demand. No, Lindsay Halligan. Did Lindsay Halligan do this? More on her in a little bit. He said that the Justice Department's written demand for the records was mailed and emailed to Raffensperger and State Elections Director Blake Evans. But both of their offices are within the Northern District of Georgia, and Macon is in the Middle District. Geography, y'all. He also said the records themselves are not within the Macon court's jurisdiction. Royal wrote in his order that the district court in Atlanta would be the proper venue to file a lawsuit. I'm thinking, though, because, court shopping, judge shopping is sort of a thing, that may have been why it wound up in this jurisdiction. Just guessing. I'm no lawyer. I'm no legal scholar. A Justice Department spokesperson did not immediately respond to a request for comment about whether they would refile the lawsuit. Again, Caleb at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution giving us, this is Caleb Groves reporting, by the way. The Trump administration sued Raffensperger in federal court late last year for unredacted voter rolls, which included voters' birthdays, driver's license numbers, partial Social Security numbers. You comfortable with MAGA having control of this? The dismissal comes after a state Senate committee passed a resolution urging Raffensperger to hand over the sensitive voter information to the Justice Department. The resolution accuses Raffensperger of obstructing the Justice Department and alleges a pattern of behavior to skirt oversight of Georgia elections. And they're not wrong about the oversight of Georgia elections. It's just that Raffensperger is having to protect the process from conspiracy theorists, some of whom now sit on the state elections board. So there's that. I mean, if we've not learned anything over the last 6 years, 5.5 years, it's that any little opening you give these conspiracy theorists, the more they're going to run with it. Never mind the fact, as I said before, Donald Trump in the aftermath of the 2020 election could have, because he was within 1 percentage point here in Georgia, could have requested a hand recount, did not. Instead, has spent the last 5.5 years milking this for all it's worth. You've got folks vetching about tabulator tapes going unsigned. I'm still on record. I'm saying I'm willing to bet you a dozen donuts that Fulton County is not the only county where that happened. It's just the only county getting the scrutiny because it's the most populous county. It's where any discrepancy that they think they could make up an 11,780 vote difference could be made up. It wouldn't. I mean, it almost certainly wouldn't. But at this point, you've heard me talk on this show with Dana Barrett, who's running for Secretary of State, with Adrian Consonoy, who's also running on the Democratic side. I've said, why not just go back and do this hand recount in Fulton County, get it all done, do a full autopsy, bring in a third party, nonpartisan third party, and just get it over with. Back to Caleb Groves reporting. The Republican-controlled state election board passed a similar measure on Wednesday. Well, of course they did. The Secretary of State's office has told the Justice Department it has given all the voter information it could under state law. In an editorial for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Raffensperger called sharing voters' data with the Justice Department reckless and illegal, saying, "I will always follow the law and follow the Constitution." That's what he said in a statement on Friday, not in the op-ed. I'll correct that. Sorry. I won't violate the oath I took to stand up for the people of this state, regardless of who or what compels me to do otherwise. And by the way, as Caleb Grove points out, Georgia's not alone. The Trump administration saw this data in more than 40 states and filed lawsuits in 20, mostly targeting Democratic-led states. The administration claims it needs the information to ensure accurate voter registration information. A federal judge dismissed a case seeking voter data in California last week. Separately, a different federal judge last week indicated a case in Oregon would be dismissed. Boy, that when it comes to the Trump team and election lawsuits, they have a record that might even make the 1980s era Atlanta Braves, when they sucked, might make them look good by comparison. And also, can we not just point out the obvious? Like, we live in a country where there's supposed to be this firewall between the states controlling their elections and the federal government. Man, if this were a Democratic president, the states' rights folks would be hollering like scalded dogs. As Caleb Groves points out, though, some states have handed over the unredacted voter rolls, including Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Texas. I believe I was a registered voter in Louisiana in the 5 years that I lived there. So I don't know if my data has been impacted, but I'm sure a class action lawsuit attorney will hit me up in future years to make sure that I can be justly compensated, should I need to be. Anyway, the Justice Department has also sued Fulton County to retrieve copies of ballots, we know this, and other election records from the county's long-scrutinized 2020 election, which, without evidence, President Donald Trump has claimed that he won. Okay, so that's a breaking story that I just want to make sure we led the show off with today. A little later in the show, we're going to speak with Sterling Thrill. That's our Friday routine guest right there, right? Sterling Thrill will be joining us. Also, Matt Rinker, who ran for Atlanta City Council, he's transitioned now. Let me clarify that. He's transitioned to running for the House District 62 seat. That incumbent, Tanya Miller, is leaving exposed for someone to take over because she is running for Attorney General. So we've got all that going for us. Last night, I had the opportunity to dip into Jason Esteves' campaign kickoff event. The guy's been campaigning for months. It's hard to believe that this is his campaign kickoff event. But I guess since, folks aren't officially filing until a certain date, and it's official. He's running, right? We have 7 candidates. They've been to forums that is running for the Democratic nomination for governor. Jason's event last night at Wild Heaven Beer. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Wild Heaven Beer on the Beltline. And this thing was packed to the rafters. Do want to dive into some of those comments. I've got some video and some audio as well. And we'll dive into that. Let me take a quick break, though. Going to come back. It's The Ron Show. Thank you so much for listening. Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or wherever you podcast. We're just glad you found us. Last night, Jason Esteves had his big campaign kickoff event at Wild Heaven Beer on the Beltline in Atlanta's West End. And listen, it was packed to the rafters. I don't know how else to soften this. It's one of those things where folks were wondering if he's got the sort of clout that he's looking for. This was in Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms territory, right? This was in Atlanta, and that's it. It was packed to the rafters. Before he spoke, I got to hang out with him for just a couple minutes and check in with him to see how being on the campaign trail all this time has gone. Here's a little bit of that Q&A. You've had a chance to crisscross the state now. What is the issue that's coming up the most amongst everybody that you've had a chance to meet?
Look, it comes down to lowering the cost of living in this state. Georgians across this state are concerned about being able to afford to live in Georgia, whether they live in a rural county or in a city. And what I want to make sure I do as governor is focus each and every day on lowering the cost of living, ensuring that Georgians have the job opportunities that they deserve, and that they have access to the health care that they deserve. I also want to make sure that we restore hope in our young people. At a time when many of our young folks have lost hope because of the chaos and destruction that's going on in Washington, D.C., but also with our economy, I want to make sure that we make historic investments in our education system so that they have access to the good-paying jobs that they deserve and they have more opportunities than what we've had in our lifetime.
I know you've seen the shell game going on in the Senate right now, the talk about eliminating the income tax and knowing where that money's got to come from in other directions. Your thoughts on that conversation?
Well, look, at the end of the day, people generally don't like paying taxes. but there are important services that we have to be able to pay for, whether it's transportation, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education. What I want to do is look at ways to cut taxes for the hardworking people of the state, and at the same time, and make historic investments in our public education system, in our healthcare system, to ensure that people are receiving the services that they need so that they can ultimately work to provide money for themselves, provide food on the table and a roof over their head.
So you heard the background noise, right? And thankfully the phone managed to pick up the audio pretty good. It was packed. But I also have to tell you, the tone of this event is unmistakable. This was about, and Jason's a basketball player, so I like to use this analogy on his behalf. He's also very tall. And by the way, the room was full of tall people. I mean, I'm only like 5'9" and a half, and I was like, my gosh, there's so many tall people in here. But I liken what he's trying to do to like an NBA center snatching a rebound and then sort of like swinging his arms to sort of clear the lane a little bit so he's got a little bit of space to move with. Greg Bluestein noted this in a strategy memo that he got his hands on. He reported about this yesterday in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, saying that in this memo shared with the AJC ahead of a kickoff rally last night, Esteves' campaign argues that former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan and former Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms would risk the party's chances of flipping the seat in November. Here is a statement from his speech last night that sort of tells you a little bit about how the criticism is getting sharpened for those combatants that are vying for the Democratic nomination and those on the right.
Y'all, I'm a fighter. And you can always count on me to stand tall, both literally and figuratively, and fight back against the chaos and destruction that's going on in Washington, D.C. I will stand up to the bully in the White House. All right. Stand up to Stephen Miller. You will never see me cheerlead or stay silent with Donald Trump in the White House like my Republican opponents have. Nor will you see me quit when the going gets tough like some of my Democratic opponents have.
Wow.
Whether it's Keisha Lance Bottoms, who as a one-term mayor, when the city needed her, was absent, with a city divided and your public safety at risk. Or Jeff Duncan, who passed some of the worst legislation in the last decade. Whether it's our voting rights, the suppression laws, whether it was the abortion ban, or campus carry. And then after passing those terrible bills, instead of running for re-election to fix it, he chose not to. He cut and run, paving the way for Burt Jones. No. We are in serious times, and Georgia needs a fighter. I will always fight for you.
Back to reporting from Greg Bluestein at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That memo from campaign manager Meg Scribner also makes the case to donors, activists, and party officials that Jason Esteves is the only contender who can muster the coalition needed to topple a tough GOP nominee in November. Representative Phil Oloye was one of the legislative surrogates there to support Jason Esteves, and I didn't capture the audio of his statements, but I caught up with him afterwards because Oloye really made that argument. He really drove that argument home to the folks that were there last night. You really kind of honed in on some of the sharpened rhetoric that's coming up now in this gubernatorial race. I think you made probably the most salient case that I've heard of any candidate about the importance of this election and not really mincing words with how important it is to make the right choice.
Well, this is a winnable race, and the candidate matters so much. And when you live in a state where we've experienced margins of, 13,000, every vote counts. And so you've got to field a candidate that can hold a broad coalition from all four corners of the state together, Democrats, Republicans, Independents. And Jason's the only one who can do that. He puts us in the best possible position to field our strongest candidate without any baggage or drag on the ticket. And it matters. It matters to bring people out and to have a hopeful, positive, hardworking candidate at the top of the ticket. It matters in state districts, state house districts, state senate districts. It matters for all of the other constitutional statewide officers. And all of the issues and things that matter most to so many people, families, communities, we believe as a party can be done with the right type of leadership focused on the issues that matter most. And all of the work that I'm trying to do as a sitting legislator is made that much easier by having a Democrat in the governor's mansion, and Jason gives us our best possible shot.
So it's easy to go into a lab and concoct the perfect candidate, and you could make the argument that he does kind of check off all the boxes, but he's got to go out there and meet 159 counties of voters and get the name recognition up. How does he do that in time to win the primary?
Got to get out there and work. There's no perfect anything. It's a matter of getting out there at eye level with every single Georgian and making your case. And he's doing that. He's working his behind off. And, we've got to remind people that ultimately the race isn't won in May. It's won in November. And when we look at the field of Democrats, and they are teammates, right? These are good men and women. And it's not about them not being right enough for this moment. It's you've got a choice. You've got to pick the candidate that puts you in the strongest position come November to win, and Jason's that guy.
So that was, again, Representative Phil Oloye, and if I can ever find some audio from that speech that he gave last night, it was short, it was quick, it was dialed in, and there's obviously this emphasis from the campaign and the campaign surrogates from the legislature and throughout the Democratic Party that they believe Jason Esteves is the guy that, again, kind of checks off all those boxes that are necessary to win a winnable race in November 2026. We also heard from Senators Kim Jackson, who introduced Jason, but also from Senate Minority Leader Harold Jones from my hometown of Augusta, Georgia, who I got to catch up with. I wanted to kind of get a little bit of the backstory because they let it be known that it was Senator Jones and Senator Jackson who were just sitting in the office one day trying to figure out, like, so who should we go to run for governor? Who would be the best person to win? And I wanted to get some backstory on that after hearing that in the speech. What was it? Where was the moment? What was it that was the aha moment for you that made you realize Jason Esteves was the guy to get behind?
Well, I've been working with him, and I saw that he had great leadership skills, and he was a perfect candidate I thought could win. But quite frankly, the story really is that myself and Whip Jackson, we were sitting in chamber talking about who should run for governor, and we had a different bunch of names going back and forth. And I said, you know what? Forget that. Jason needs to run for governor. And I walked up to him, and Kim was behind me. I said, guess what? We determined your life story for the next 10 years. You're running for governor. That's how it happened.
How long did it take before he said, okay, I'm in?
It took a little bit of time because he's like, well, of course, like you said, he wasn't totally all in necessarily just because he knows the enormity of it all. I think that's the key thing. He's got a young family and everything. But once he realized, I think, as he said, after 24, hey, we need change. This is a winnable race, and I truly believe he's the guy that can do it.
There's a little bit of humility in him, but hearing him say that, when he literally said my name, he said Jason Esteves is the guy, like, that was the moment that, like, made me realize he also has the confidence to do this too.
Right, 100%. He certainly has the confidence to do it, and I think he has the humility, but I also think he has the confidence to do it, and I think he realizes that this is going to be a very close race, and the way I looked at it, and the way I think others have looked at it, and say, this is the guy to put us over the finish line. It's too important to lose this race. Everything is on the line in 26, and so that's when myself and Kim Jackson were going back and forth, knowing everything was on the line. I said, no, we got to go big. We got to take a chance, and we're going to take a chance with Jason. I think you can win this thing.
Listen, you are blessed to have a front row seat, and I'm not trying to brag, but you are blessed if you follow the show to have a front row seat to what the next 3.5-4 months are going to bring, because this gubernatorial primary is going to be a fascinating race to watch, and we're going to be all over it here on the Ron Show and, of course, at Georgia Now, as we weave in around the state and talk to all of these candidates. We've had Representative Roa Roman on. We have had former legislator Senator Jackson on as well. We do have Jeff Duncan. The former Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan will be on January 27th next week. Very much looking forward to that. I pushed for that very hard, and kudos to Brennan for getting that one sealed away for us. We do have folks in the Keisha Lance Bottoms camp that are working on making sure that we have that as well. We are going to have all of those necessary conversations with each and every one of these candidates. it's as you heard from some of those surrogates, it's important that Democrats get the choice right. It's also important that since there are 7 candidates running and only one can win, that the camps that don't win coalesce with full faith and integrity and enthusiasm behind whomever the nominee is. Cannot stress that enough. We have had enough, issues at the federal and at the state level getting behind the candidate that wins the primary. You got to drop your butt hurt off, at the polling place on primary Tuesday, and then do what you can to salvage salve your wounds, and then turn the corner and get behind the lady or the gentleman who becomes the nominee, and that's up and down the ticket. Anyway, that turnout last night caught me a little off guard. I'm not gonna lie, packed to the rafters, 2 levels. The place was packed. So Jason's in this, and he's in this to try and win it. Anyway, just wanted to report all that to you. It's The Ron Show, Georgia Now, Progressive Voice via TuneIn, wherever you podcast. Sterling Thrill up next.
This is The Ron Show.
With my Friday guest, Sterling Thrill. You can find him at sterlingthrill.com. Comedian, political satirist, and a good friend of mine for quite a few years now. It's starting to add up. How are you, dude?
Man, they starting to add up. Man, I'm good, Ron. It's good to see you. I love that we do this now when we used to just meet pop stars. Like I remember you used to bring me to meet Jason Derulo and Katy Perry and stuff like that. And now we're like, well, the government just detained a 5-year-old boy and sent him to, sent him to another state and oh my gosh, the world is wild, man.
Send me back to the days when the biggest worry I had was whether or not I could get a signal from the House of Blues back to the station to do my Katy Perry interview. Send me back to those traumas, to that stress, those anxieties. I didn't know how good I had it back then, honestly.
Yeah. When Skype wasn't working, so you couldn't get the Gavin DeGraw interview to work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Gavin DeGraw had that fight.
We have to tell that story real quick. Yeah, Gavin DeGraw comes to play at the House of Blues, I think with Collective Soul, if I remember correctly. Damn, I'm good. That was Collective Soul. Atlanta-based Collective Soul, by the way. And he was all giddy with anticipation, ready to give me the blow-by-blow details of a fight that he almost got in with some rowdies at the House of Blues at Broadway at the Beach the night before in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And so I'm like, yeah, we'll do this. I go inside the bowels of the House of Blues, where, by the way, you can't get a cell signal out of there, let alone a broadcast signal. And so his entire ordeal, did you just roll with dead air and scattered bit?
Yeah, it just sounded like aliens were trying to reach out to us, like like it was just like some kind of horror movie or something. People thought they had no idea it was a warning signal for 10 years later or something. We didn't, the Myrtle Beach, South Carolina people are listening didn't know that, hey, this is George Orwell. We're letting you know it's happening. It's coming.
I've said this before. I don't know if I've told you this, but when the aliens arrive, I'm willing to hear them out. I'm sorry. Yeah. Humanity's had half a century to convince me that it's the way to be, and
they're like, take us to your leader. I'm like, you sure?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you want to,
let me introduce you.
Can.
I want to introduce you to the Board of Peace and let that reflect all of humanity. Oh my gosh.
The Board of Peace. It sounds like not just like a comic book. I compare this guy to a comic book a lot. Maybe that's my frame of reference, but it sounds like specifically like those cartoon shows from the 60s into the 70s of the villain, like the Super Friends was the DC show. And it sounds like that's the plot line. Like we're having a Board of Peace, and it's like, $1 billion to join or something like that.
Yeah, but you walk in and it's the Penguin and the Joker, and it's all the famous villains.
It's exactly what it is. It is wild, Ron. It is a crazy, wild time. And we didn't know how good we had it back in them days, man.
I was reading this story that the folks at Queerty put out. They did this story, and I shared it on the Audio GayTL Facebook page. That is my little side hustle, my little streaming audio station. And Queerty basically showed how, like, gay people, we were hating on Donald Trump well back into the 1980s. Like, we been, my people, we been new. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were.
Yeah, I've been on it.
Yeah, we were on that trip long ago. And I don't know if it was the bad hair, the way he tackily dresses, or the overdoing it on gold. You know, we don't like too much accessorizing. It can be a little silly. But like we knew Donald Trump was bad news back in the 80s.
Oh my gosh! Everybody should have, because the op-ed to the what was it, the Central Park 5 or the Brooklyn? What was it?
Yes, he was like, yeah, he
just hang some black guys because they were around when a woman was raped or said she was raped or something like that. I mean, just hang them. I mean, they might not have been guilty, but just hang them anyway.
I love the blacks, though. I love the blacks. The blacks are my friends.
Oh my gosh, man! And then people, you know, there's gays that vote for him. There's blacks that vote for him. There's Latinos that vote for him.
There are gay people. Scott Bessent is a big old flaming homosexual, and he is the Treasury Secretary. I'm sure he probably just said yes because the word secretary was in it, but whatever. Oh, I get to play secretary? Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I get to make the gay jokes. You don't.
You can
remember.
Make. Yeah. You can make that joke. Not jokes that Sterling can make. That's it.
Although,
I have no idea, man. This is a wild time, and it just keeps. And I love that, like, before Trump gives any speech, like when he's like, you know, they're like, okay, what's the best way we can sell our message of complete authoritarianism and, you know, world takeover? Oh, I know. Let's let this guy some Ambien. Like every time he goes up to speak, and you're going to do, and I talked to 3 minutes. And
well, don't forget the signature. He's always
That one guy said it was speed. He said somebody, it's like he crushes his weight loss pills and does lines of them. He does them like speed. That was who said that? This was from the last presidency. He said that he used to work with Trump on the teen pageants. Oh. And he just talked about how creepy he was. He would just go into dressing rooms and stuff, but he was always high on speed. And like he just takes like like some kind of doctor prescribed, you know, like hydroxycut type of medicine. He just crushes it up and takes it.
Well, and now we know he takes like a fistful of aspirin every day, not Tylenol, but aspirin. And there's also another story that came out here. I saw this TikTok influencer, I think it's called Quintessential or something like that, who detailed like the complete rundown of when Donald Trump was on the Celebrity Apprentice, and how he had like a bagman, but the bagman his nickname was Wet Wipes. Because that's what his job was, to be there at a moment's notice, because Don was a diaper guy, and apparently, you know, sometimes, and you know, I'm not going to sit here and mock incontinence or anything like that, but he literally had a guy who was the bagman with Wet Wipes.
So Donnie went from being that to now making everyone else have to deal with his
yeah, exactly. At least that guy got paid well. We're talking $15,000 a month for this job. $15,000 a month for tell me now, for $15,000 a month, would you wipe Don's butt on demand? $15,000 a month, dude.
No, I would be tempted.
That's more than $150,000 a year.
No, one, I mean, you'd have to pay me up front. I mean, first of all, because it's Donald Trump, I don't trust that at all. Second of all,
you don't want the upfront job. that was Stormy's, and that paid better actually too.
Yeah, that paid. I don't know, man. Upfront job seems like it was less work. I mean, there's definitely not a lot to do up there. You ain't got much work to do. I mean, get some gloves and a magnifying glass, man. You'll be all right. You know what I mean? Not the other way around. Golly.
So in the same week that we saw a 5-year-old get detained by ICE, this is the same week that Tom Holman. By the way, if you notice how Tom Holman talks like this, that's how Tom Holman talks. And I'm not making fun of it. I'm just pointing it out. But anyway, Tom Holman was on Laura Ingraham, and the handsome Laura was talking with Tom, and they were bemoaning how, you know, the mainstream media is just so rough on ICE, how unfair they are to ICE by showing the world how ICE acts on the streets. How dare the mainstream media do that? Tom Holman said that they have to do a better job at messaging. Here, I'm thinking, like, don't shoot unarmed women in the face 3 times. Don't steal a 5-year-old kid off the streets and detain him. I mean, or then decide this in the same week that he's saying that they got a messaging problem. They a memo leaks that, hey, we don't need a warrant. We can barge down the door if we want to.
Any house, anybody.
I'm trying to remember. We had a time, I think it was like pre-American Revolution, where we really didn't like when King George had his redcoats doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Coming into house. No, man, this is insane. They got a messaging problem? No, they don't. Their message is clear, man. We're just Gestapo. We're going to do what we want to do.
Right.
And if you are not white, or if you are in the way, or making a fuss, you're gone. We're going to deal with you. We're going to handle you.
Yeah, the cruelty was the point.
And I hope, gosh, I feel bad for the ignorance of these people, because I mean, that's a large organization, whether it's a good or bad organization, is going to have like different people are involved in it for different reasons. But ultimately, if you're involved in ICE or Border Patrol and you're not in the freaking border, I mean, I understand Border Patrol, but like you're Border Patrol and you're in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So you're in these organizations and like, I lost my point. I got mad at Border Patrol leaving the border. But like, I was just thinking, if you're in these organizations and you're in there for different reasons, like you might not realize that eventually, possibly at least, the hammer's going to come down and you are going to be found guilty for all these evil things that you're doing. I mean, the only way it's not going to happen is if Trump just keeps authoritarian rolling bigger, bigger, bigger. And that's what they are doing. I mean, I'm hearing Gavin Newsom saying it, just preaching it. I mean, he's the only person I'm hearing preaching about how evil this guy is and what he's doing, like what he's like, hey, this is what's happening, I'm
going to push back on that. I don't think Gavin Newsom's the only one talking about how evil Donald Trump is. I think
no,
that's
the whole world is.
Yeah.
We are, but I'm saying he's like, hey, his messaging is, don't give this guy any chances. We shouldn't entertain this guy. We shouldn't listen to him like he's a normal thing. It doesn't matter what he says. He's going to do authoritarian actions. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not the only one, but he's saying this.
Sometimes I can't help but wonder. I'm trying to remember which cartoon character it was, or comic book guy. Like the more you fired at him, the stronger he got. I can't remember which that is. But
that's a lot of tropes, man.
Yeah, I think I think there's that theory that the more you swing at him, the stronger. But I also happen to think that, like, just for history's sake, I want him to know, like, we're keeping tabs on all of this for history's sake. Yeah. You can slap your name on anything you want. An ocean, a gulf, a building that had somebody else's name on it in the first place. And by the way, the bullet didn't miss. But
damn,
I mean, history's I know, not too soon. But history's going to be what judges him inevitably, and I want him and his people to know, like, listen, you already know how we think of you, but here's how your kids and grandkids are going to think of you. Think about how you today think of how crazy it was that people were spitting on little black schoolgirls going into schools in Little Rock in the 1960s. That is how people are going to think of you not long from now. Your kids, your grandkids, and their kids are going to judge you for this moment. Like, I want people to know that is being recorded for history's sake.
Yes, it's being recorded. I'm hoping it's recorded for the government's case against them at one point. I hope it's recorded for state and local and federal government prosecutions. What I hope it's recorded for.
The new Nuremberg trial, right?
Gosh, we need one bad, and I hate that. I don't want, I want grace for everybody, man. At the same time, and I need these people to understand the evil that they're doing and how wrong it is. And how do you not know? Like, I'm not I didn't go to school for poli-sci. Like, I'm very, I don't know, just have a high school education on politics and just, living in the world and reading the news and stuff. I mean, I understand a few of the amendments. Like, I understand some very basic principles we have in the U.S. How do ICE officers and Border Patrol, how do they not understand these things? They're being told by this little evil, crooked peepee Stephen Miller that they're okay, that they have immunity.
Yeah, I mean, what could go wrong with that, right?
Oh my gosh, it's insane. It's just so insane, and it's just crazy that it's happening. It doesn't make any sense, but at the same time, I cannot wait until some sense is made, and I cannot wait until these people are brought to trials. Just trial. I hope they have mass Nuremberg trials, like mass trials, and I can understand. I mean, some leeway was saying the government's telling you this is okay. I mean, I get some leeway, but no, you need some retribution. Like you need something. Like you need something to be
President Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on day one should pack the Supreme Court so that whole absolute immunity while you served in office thing is done away with, and then we'll let the chips fall where they may. And by the way, like here's the thing: ICE is focused on Minnesota, right? Minnesota has about 130,000 undocumented people living in that state. Florida has 1.5 million. Texas has more than 2 million. Yeah, those are red states, though. And yeah, Tim Walz isn't governor, so for some reason, the 100,000 or so we're focusing on in Minnesota. Make it make sense. We're with Sterling Thrill. You can find him at sterlingthrill.com. I want to take a quick break and tee one up for you because I know you love to talk religion in the church, and some activism showed up at the church, and the church didn't seem to react too well to it. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that, right?
Yeah, man. Let's talk about it.
We will do that when the Ron Show returns on Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn and wherever you podcast. Got a few more minutes with my buddy Sterling Thrill. You can find out about Sterling Thrill's stand-up. Is there a tour yet? Do we have dates at sterlingthrill.com?
So right now we are accepting if you want cities. No, for real, you can go on my website and tell me what city you're in, and if you want comedy there, we'll come there. So it's really, we have that. It's called sterlingthrill.com/next, and you can tell me where you'd like to see me. I'm happy to go there. And the other thing we're pushing on the website right now, my social media, we're doing a campaign, a series called Personality Hire, and it's where I'm just being silly. I'm doing trends from work from home and working office funny humor, stuff like that, and letting people know that we do team building. So that's kind of the things I'm doing. So yeah.
The guy who worked for me in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina radio and had to deal with Jimmy's pranks. Remember the roll of toilet paper prank that he just, it had him near to tears, crying, laughing, knowing that you were stuck with the roll of toilet paper that wouldn't unroll. And that was just so funny to him.
I'll be honest with you. I'm glad that made sense to him. I don't remember that at all. I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Made Jimmy's week. So I want to go back to Minnesota, not literally or figuratively, but because it's coldest up there. But
yeah.
So we saw where there were some Black Lives Matters protesters. By the way, protesting on behalf of a white woman that was killed. So take that, all you All Lives Matter people. Where you at?
Exactly.
They went into an evangelical church. Where one of the pastor there is allegedly, because ICE doesn't detail who works for him, is allegedly an ICE agent as well. And right-wing evangelicals, pundits have been like pearl clutching ever since about this.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're not even safe in our church. To which I would have said, in fact, I said this a day or two ago. I'm like, you're not supposed to feel safe in your church. You should feel attacked by your own minister every day. You should be uncomfortable and be made uncomfortable every time you go to that church because they're supposed to be bringing some realities to you that don't sit well with your comfort, right? And I know, right? Hey, man.
Preach. Yeah.
Taking on the choir robe. Grab the tambourine. No, but that was me. And the other thing is, like, the minister himself, is he not trained? Does he not have the tools to de-escalate this and to foster a conversation?
Man, I have no idea. I know that pearl clutching and the church, that they don't go together at all. The American institution that we call the church that is very much pearl clutches, but not the church of the Bible. In the Bible, the church describes a group of people. So the church is not a place that you go to. But what we do church in the Western civilization is a place you go to, and kind of like a country club, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's a club. It's not a life, not a way of life. It's like a club, and it's a way of life in the sense that you do the culture of this Western Christianity BS that they got going on, but it's their culture, and anything outside their culture they condemn. So that's the other thing about the church is like it's condemnation of things outside of church culture versus, just understanding like it's okay to have your own culture. It's just the condemnation against things outside of that culture. But yeah, this is wild. It wasn't just the pundits, Ron. Did you see the DOJ? They've arrested Dr. Akima. Uh-huh. And like they've made friggin' arrests
after letting 1,600 J6ers go. After letting 1,600 J6ers go. Yeah,
they made this is insane. If you don't see this as just blatant like racism, Golly. Anyway, in the church,
racism, hypocrisy,
hypocrisy.
Blindness, blasphemy. I mean, like they would have arrested Jesus for stepping into the temple and turning over tables.
Well, they did. And they murdered him. And one thing I've always said is that, like,
you know what I mean by they. I'm talking about the MAGA people. That's what I'm saying. Like,
but MAGA, in this sense, are the Pharisees and Sadducees, just like in biblical times. Like that is the thing. The people that are real religious. Jesus went into a temple at different times. There's different accounts of him going to the temple in the Bible. And one of them, he goes in, not the time that we're talking about just now, but he goes in another time and he reads this part of the scroll and he says, hey, listen, this is what this scroll says. I'm here doing this right now, but you won't see it. And then they came and like mob rushed him, and then he escaped or whatever. He like left him because he wasn't his time to be sacrificed at that time. But I mean, there's plenty of times like that. Like religious people do not get it, and they didn't get it 2,000 years ago, and they don't get it now. So religious people are the people that are up in arms and perching and clutching pearls and stuff, because if you're seniority, if somebody in your ministry is a senior something, they're in charge of teaching anything, and they have anything to do with ICE, that's a pro-ICE thing. That's a conflict. You can't do that. You know what I mean? That's those things do not go together.
Yeah, I mean, the mission of ICE, especially right now, the mission of ICE, and the callings of Jesus to welcome the immigrant, to welcome the guest. You know, I said something about this on Facebook, maybe it was this morning, where I said that I think historians, again, this is going back to where I think people will see us in 100, 150, 200 years. They'll look back at this era and liken us to Sodom and Gomorrah if we detail it correctly, because Sodom and Gomorrah wasn't about like homosexuality. Sodom and Gomorrah was about exactly what we're talking about, not welcoming the refugee and being hostile to those who come here in a time of great need.
I mean, speaking of that, in Minnesota, the father and the 5-year-old boy, they're asylum seekers, legal asylum seekers, not illegal. And we have our friggin' vice president call them illegal aliens when they are legal asylum seekers. They just happen to be not friggin' white.
By the way, J.D. Vance and his wife expecting a new child. I wonder how that happened and what couch cushions she wore that night to make herself look more.
There you go. Exactly. I was trying to make a joke about the eyeliner. You went for the couch cushion. That's exactly right. What's her name? What's the wife's name?
Is it Una?
Una, I don't know. Miss Vance is up there, like putting her, like she up there hiding the cushions, like, oh, it's gonna be a good night tonight.
Instead of rose petals, it was probably a string of rooms to go circulars leading to the bed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, man, she has to make. Oh, my brain wants to make all these puns. You know what I mean? Like, baby, come home and reupholster me. You know what I mean? Like,
her G-spot is now the love seat.
Oh
anyway,
my gosh,
absolute grossness. So what you got lined up this weekend, man? What you going to be doing?
So this weekend is, I think, it's an off weekend, man. I'm off this weekend. So
are you guys getting into the frozen stuff that's coming through here? We're getting like freezing rain, and there's the threat of icy road. So everybody's like quitting early today, no rain today, so that they can be prepared for Sunday, and of course they'll be off on Monday too.
Right. Yeah. No, similar things. I'm in South Carolina right now. I was just in Brooklyn last week, and it was cold, but it wasn't that cold, which is great. Every time I'm in January in Brooklyn, it's always like freezing. It was actually the warmest time I've been there in a while. And then this coming week is going to be the coldest thing ever. But so I'm in Myrtle Beach. We are. Remember Ed Piotrowski? I'm sure he's saying, bunch of stuff and making sure that every grocery store doesn't have water. And then my kid just went up to Raleigh, and I think they're going to get it because ours shifted. It looks like Myrtle's not going to get it as bad as it was supposed to be. So I have no idea, man. Just going to hunker down, man. And I saw the Tonight Show made a joke that said, Trump, about this winter storm, like, Trump, you said you wanted Greenland. Well, here it is.
Yeah. Here in Atlanta, the folks at the Department of Transportation aren't sprinkling salt on the roads. It's lemon pepper seasoning.
I saw that reel, dude. Atlanta, bro. Golly,
that's how we roll. Anyway, Sterling Thrill at sterlingthrill.com. Man, let's get you into the Atlanta area sometime soon so we can...
Man, I got to hit up Marcy at the Punchline. I need to do that. I just haven't done it yet. I need to hit her up. So if anybody's listening to the Punchline, y'all call up Marcy saying Sterling needs to come through.
We'll put some pressure on that to happen. All right.
That's it, man.
Sterling, Sterling Thrill at sterlingthrill.com. Thanks for joining the Ron Show, man. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Ron. Love seeing you. Love being a part of it, bro.
Always look forward to catching up with you. Hour number 1 of the books on the Ron Show. It means more to come. Matt Rinker, running for Georgia House District 62, joins us next hour. On Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast.
From the heart of the city too busy to hate, a progressive voice making too much sense for corporate media's comfort. This is The Ron Show, where we the people come first. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
Thank you so much for sticking with us. Hour number 2 coming at you. And Matt Rinker, who ran for Atlanta City Council, good buddy of mine, and he's running for House District 62. Tanya Miller has decided she wants to run, for Attorney General. So Matt Rinker is running for the soon-to-be vacated seat. I don't know if there's primary opposition yet. I haven't seen anybody else. But anyway, Matt's going to run, and Matt joins us in the bottom half of this last hour of the show for the day and the week. I want to start, however, with the fact that the Jack Smith testimony was in and of itself, damning. And it was just kind of fun to watch as the dog caught the car again, as GOP House members, Jim Jordan, of course, chairing this subcommittee, got more than he asked for and didn't get quite what he was looking for either. There's actually a nice piece in Politico that spoke to this. Haley Fuchs, Kyle Cheney writing that Republicans tried to snag Jack Smith on technicalities, but they didn't engage with the facts. Writing, Republicans finally had their moment to take on the man who tried to put President Donald Trump in jail, but they didn't land any significant blows. During Thursday's House Judiciary Committee hearing with Jack Smith, GOP members spent almost no time challenging the facts of the criminal case that the former special counsel brought against Trump, that he conspired to corrupt the results of the 2020 election and seize a second term. He didn't win. Instead, Republican committee members spent much of the hearing challenging the technical aspects of Smith's probe into Trump's election interference, including whether the veteran federal prosecutor properly signed his oath of office as special counsel. This sounds like the Fulton County tapes, right? And if he was sufficiently cognizant of the Constitution's speech or debate clause that protects Congress from executive branch overreach, which is ironic in this moment, right? They questioned whether Smith was too friendly with a Justice Department official who recommended him for the special counsel position and challenged his approval of a $20,000 payment to a confidential human source for the FBI who was reviewing video and photos from the Bureau. House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan pressed Smith on his view of the House's now-defunct Select Committee to investigate the events of January 6, which also probed Trump's 2020 election gambit. He also questioned that panel's reliance on former Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson to implicate Trump in plans to overturn the results favoring Joe Biden. Democrats have been going after President Trump for 10 years, Jim said, for a decade, and the country should never, ever forget what they did. We have 1,600 folks who did what they did on January 6th. Jim Jordan has complained not once about them being pardoned. Back to Fuchs and Cheney, who write, this nibbling around the edges by Republicans underscores the GOP's lingering discomfort with Trump's bid to subvert the election, an effort that preceded a violent attack on the Capitol by a mob of the president's supporters. Several Republicans on the Judiciary Committee were among those who fled the rioters that day and condemned the violence at the time, and none at the hearing suggested Trump actually prevailed against Biden. But here's the thing. Jack Smith's testimony, the questioning, the really sad bending of the knee by many Republicans in this hearing, if these folks had any ability to grow some self-awareness, to be embarrassed, it would be something. But that's not even the story of the hearing. The story of the hearing was the near dust-up with a MAGA mouth by the name of Ivan Raiklin and former Capitol Police Officer Michael Fanone. And I want to credit Fanone, by the way, for taking to social media. He posted a YouTube video with Raiklin's own video to actually set the table from all angles. Brilliant. Here is Michael Fanone setting up the story for you.
I want to be very clear about what happened today. And this didn't happen online. This wasn't social media drama. This happened inside the United States Capitol during a House Judiciary Committee hearing where Jack Smith was testifying about his criminal investigation into Donald Trump. I was seated in the hearing room when a man sitting behind me decided to approach me. That man is Ivan Raiklin, a MAGA activist who calls himself Trump's so-called Secretary of Retribution. And he didn't approach me in good faith. He didn't approach me to talk. He approached me because that's what people like him do. They provoke, they record, and they try to bait reactions.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Ivan Reitman. Why do you have to swear at me?
What's that?
Why do you have to swear at me?
Oh, dude, don't pretend like we're not mortal enemies. Go f*** yourself.
Well, why do you have to lose your cool like that?
I'm not
I've
losing
been
my cool.
always professional with you.
I'm not losing my cool.
Every
Fuck
single
yourself.
time I communicate
Fuck
with you,
yourself. You're a
I
traitor to
am
this
always
country. Fuck
professional
yourself.
with you.
Well, I'm
and
not.
it requires
Fuck
other
yourself.
people to contain your Tourette's syndrome. Okay?
I'm not going to get through. You've threatened my family and you've threatened my
Oh,
life.
have
You're
I?
a traitor to this country.
Why are
Go
you
fuck
so
yourself.
spasmodic?
Am I spasmodic?
Absolutely.
Fucking do
Look
something.
behind you.
Do something.
Why should I? I'm communicating with you. I'm trying to calm you down. Right? Look at your face and picture. You can't even control yourself. You can't even be a man.
Trust me, I'm using a lot
You
of
see how
restraint
many
right now.
people are constraining you?
Come get me.
Look at me. Total control over my mind and body. Total control over my mind and body, and I'm totally dominating you right now.
Sir.
Treating these people that way.
I'm not.
This guy is threatening my family, threatening my children, threatened to my children.
Oh, really?
Rape my children, you sick
Look at
bastard.
him.
My
More
children.
people need to contain him because I'm completely calm, sir. Always calm. Listen.
Down, please.
Thank you, Officer Fanone. Mr. Chairman, please control the deranged observer, Mr. Raiklen, so he doesn't create any other problems with us today.
Imagine what he did on January 6th with that demeanor. Look at my demeanor. Complete.
Now, what you need to understand is this. This is not some random person. This is someone who's threatened my family, threatened my children.
Threatened to rape.
So when he stuck his hand out and tried to play polite, I responded honestly. I told him to go f himself.
Yeah.
And I told him he's a traitor to our country.
He is.
Because that's exactly what he is. You'll hear him say I lost my cool. You'll hear him claim that he was being professional. That's nonsense. What you're watching there is restraint. Because when someone who's made violent threats against your family walks up to you inside the Capitol, smiling, filming, and trying to humiliate you, restraint is the only thing preventing that moment from turning into something much worse. And standing just a few feet away from me was my friend and fellow officer Harry Dunn, someone who understands exactly how these provocations work, and who stepped in before things escalated further. As Capitol Police intervened, Ranklin did what these people always do. He smirked, he postured, he pretended he was dominating the situation. That's not dominance, that's cowardice. Because real strength doesn't come from threatening families, filming confrontations, and then crying victim when someone stands up to you. And yes, Jim Jordan banged his gavel and called for order. But let's be honest about what was actually out of order. It wasn't my response. It was the fact that someone who has openly threatened violence against my family was allowed to sit behind me in a congressional hearing in the first place.
Bingo.
As I walked out, Jamie Raskin thanked me because everyone in that room understood exactly what just happened. And now after all of this, Ranklin is threatening to sue me. And that tells you everything you need to know. These people want intimidation without consequences. They want to provoke without being confronted. They want to threaten families but hide behind lawsuits when someone pushes back. Well, I'm not intimidated. I didn't go looking for a confrontation today, but I will never apologize for defending my family. I will never apologize for calling traitors exactly what they are.
Right.
And I will not be silenced by people who think the Capitol is just another stage for their extremist cosplay. So just like I said to his face, I'll say it again. Ivan Ranklin, go f yourself.
And now you know the rest of the story, right? Yeah. So there's actually some more reporting that I want to share with you from the world of ICE. And I know we focus so much on ICE. There's so many other issues to focus on. This one, to me, sort of grosses me out. This story came out of CBS News, where ICE has stopped paying for detainees' medical care as their detainment population has swelled. There are ties to this investigation, too, by Georgia Senator John Ossoff. So let me take a quick break, and we'll come on back and report on this. It's The Ron Show. Thank you so much for listening on Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, wherever you podcast. And stand by. Matt Rinker, running for House District 62, joins us at the bottom of the hour. Next segment, my buddy, Matt Rinker, ran for Atlanta City Council, also now up for, he has pivoted. He has made the pivot. He is running for State House District 62. Tanya Miller, running for Attorney General, currently occupies that seat through this legislative session, and then she is going to be focusing her efforts on winning the Attorney General's race in the primary and then in November. I do want to point out, however, that there's another candidate that'll be on the ballot in November, and that would be one Senator John Ossoff, who has been busy working constituent services and speaking in opposition when possible and when rational, voicing his displeasure with DHS and ICE. For example, Dan Raby, CBS News, reporting that Ossoff and Social Circle Mayor David Keener are asking the Department of Homeland Security for answers about a reported plan to turn a warehouse in the city limits into a holding center for immigrant detainees. We talked with the Social Circle city manager last week about this, and he, under no uncertain terms, says, we can't do that. We don't have the water capacity, the sewage capacity, the infrastructure. There's no way that the city of Social Circle could accommodate this. And also, they weren't even contacted about it by DHS. They found out from the Washington Post. And because the owner of the warehouse had to sign a non-disclosure form, he can't talk to anybody about what he and DHS are kicking the tires on with regard to that facility. Dan Raby covering the ground here that we did last week. The plan would also include 16 processing sites that would hold up to 1,500 people each. The Post reported one of those proposed sites could be located in Jefferson, Georgia. CBS News' Dan Raby reiterating that the agency plans to modify the warehouses for human use, adding housing units, kitchens, a dining area, recreation areas, sure, a medical unit, and more, according to the Washington Post. Since then, Social Circle leaders have been asking for more information about the plan, calling the facility unfeasible. A proposed ICE detention facility is not right for Social Circle, and the city of Social Circle does not support it. We are urging the administration to abandon this plan, which risks overwhelming the city's resources and more than tripling its population, Senator Ossoff and Social Circle Mayor David Keener said in a joint statement earlier today. City leadership has pointed to concerns about the impact to water and sewer infrastructure as well as security issues. Again, we covered that last week. I'll include that conversation or the link to that show in the show notes at ronshowatl.com. And then get this. This is another gross one here. ICE stopped paying for detainee medical care as population in their detention center surged, according to an investigation done by the senator's office. Zachary Bynum from CBS News reporting, as the numbers of people held in U.S. immigration detention has surged nationwide, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has stopped paying outside medical providers for detainee care, according to newly reported government records, a breakdown that coincides with a Georgia-led Senate investigation documenting dozens of cases of alleged medical neglect inside ICE facilities. According to reporting by Popular Information, ICE has not paid third-party medical providers for detainees' treatment since October 3rd, 2025. What is this, Trump's bookkeeper here? Instructing providers to hold all claims until at least April 30th, 2026. That's the start of the fiscal year, right? The lapse comes as the detained population has ballooned from fewer than 40,000 people in January 2025 to more than 73,000 today. Federal law requires ICE to provide necessary medical care to people in its custody. This is where I also point out, yeah, that was the same constitutional provision for trans folks and required medical care as well. And you notice there's not been a whole lot said about that since the election has ended, right? Interesting why that would be. ICE detention centers rely heavily on outside doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies, especially for specialized or off-site care. But an administration source told CBS News Atlanta that ICE's failure to pay has already led some providers to deny services altogether, while in other cases, detainees have allegedly been denied essential medical treatment. In internal government documents, ICE described the situation as an, quote, absolute emergency, warning it could lead to, quote, medical complications or loss of life. More than 3 months later, the payment system remains offline. Did I mention, by the way, that a man died in ICE custody last week here in Georgia? I don't even know if I got to report on that. Listen, while I realize with the Trump administration that the cruelty is the point, it's a common thread connecting both Trump presidencies, right? I fail to understand how his base can sleep at night while professing to be God-loving Christians. They'll be going to church, weather permitting, on Sunday. I have this theory. Centuries from now, maybe not even that long, decades, centuries from now, humanity is going to look back at our society the way the Bible thumpers think of Sodom and Gomorrah. And not because of the sexual deviancy, although persistent suppression and curious redactions of the Epstein files certainly provide fodder for that too, right? No, future humanity is going to see us as the society that lived a lifestyle that caused harm and havoc to other parts of the world, while erecting, literally, barriers for those who had to flee where they were to find refuge and opportunity here. They'll see us as the society that punished the affected for having that survival instinct while permitting businesses to take full advantage of their circumstances by employing them for substandard pay, knowing they were, quote, on their own, should, quote, the law catch them, because our society wouldn't go after those usurpers of immigration and labor laws. I mean, the hirers. Add to it the subhuman treatment put proudly on display by DHS and ICE, and throw this story onto the pile. Are you sickened by this yet? I mean, I am. It's disgusting. Everything I learned as a kid about Christianity from this little Baptist church I grew up in flies in the face of this. And yet, I'm certain most of the congregation that I grew up with and leadership of it back then and now, casually and quietly continued voting for politicians that suppressed needed immigration policies and practices. Eventually, for the current president. And they say nothing about this vile anti-Christian treatment of people, who again were largely chased here by circumstances, taken advantage of, dehumanized when detained, and disregarded medically while incarcerated. Man, listen, I've said this so many times. I am not a religious person. I am literally atheist. I kind of feel like, this is it. Live the life you have to the best of your ability. Make sure that you don't impact others in a negative way so that everybody can kind of live the life that they deserve to live. And it's just, it's wild to me that I live in a country where one of the two binary choices politically is so beholden to a religious entity that can't see themselves to live by the golden rule that, by the way, is in the Bible as well, the Quran as well. They can't live by that. They have to make life hell for people now under this false guise of a premise that they're going to go to heaven for the way they live their life at the expense of other people. And you wonder why you have folks going to churches to protest, especially when the minister's an ICE agent, allegedly. We don't know. I'll just say this. If hell exists, there's plenty of space for those who find this all okay, or who sit quietly and choose to sit on their hands, lips zipped, and push back under no uncertain terms. And I don't want to hear from the, well, they shouldn't have come here in the first place. Well, again, I always ask folks who say that sort of stuff. So if things were to happen and you couldn't get a job where you are and you had to move somewhere else, and where you were, people don't mind crossing state lines to go get jobs. There are areas of the country that find themselves, we saw this happen. In fact, we've seen this in American history time and time again, where manufacturing takes a slump, folks move to the South, get into agriculture. Agriculture takes a slump, folks move to the cities, get back into agriculture. This nation broadened its borders literally by folks going west for opportunity, at the expense of, by the way, the folks who were living there at the time who didn't have the foresight to erect barriers. Well, I mean, they probably did try in some cases. We know this through history that the Native Americans did push back. They just didn't have the firepower to win that battle. So, yeah, I pose this to people all the time. So if where you lived, there was no possible opportunity for you to get a job where you did, and you had to go somewhere else because the opportunity was there, and oh, by the way, you were able to pull your family from not just starvation, economic calamity, but maybe political instability, rampant crime. I mean, we see this happen in this country all the time. People want to move from crime-riddled areas. People want to move to where the jobs are. Fortunately, in this country, it's pretty easy to move from state to state. You don't have to apply for citizenship and then wait. Could you imagine if you had to wait for a decade to become a citizen in the state that you moved to because the job was there for you? Like you couldn't vote on state level politics that were affecting you in the decade you were there? This sounds absolutely asinine, doesn't it? Oh, and by the way, they would take your money, they would take your tax dollars, but still, you can't weigh in. And you can't even enjoy full benefits of being a resident. You're going to be denied benefits of being a resident, actually, while you pay into those coffers for the decade that you're paying in. Tom Holman complaining to Laura Ingraham earlier this week that DHS has a messaging problem. ICE has a messaging problem. Yeah, I'd say shooting a woman in the head. I'd say failure to pay medical bills leading to third-party vendors denying healthcare services for folks that are detained. I'd say that that's a messaging problem. Snatching a 5-year-old boy off the streets and taking him to detention. Yeah, I'd say you have a messaging problem. Matt Rinker joins me next. It's The Ron Show. Georgia Now, Progressive Voices via TuneIn.
This is The Ron Show.
Heard weekdays, 4 to 6 p.m. on Georgia Now, 8 to 10 a.m. the following weekday mornings. As well on Georgia Now, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn. So my buddy Matt Rinker ran for Atlanta City Council, came up just a little short, but still has the itch, still wants to serve his constituency. And it's actually a larger constituency, so kudos on that. Listen, we're always seeing efforts to get people to run for something. Like there's an organization called Run for Something that's trying to convince everyday Americans to get up off their duff and not be keyboard warriors, but actually go out there, pound on the doors, and represent the will of the working class. And I congratulate him on doing that, and he joins me now. Matt Rinker running for Georgia House District 62. Tanya Miller's running for Attorney General. So that seat is right now, well, not a vacant seat, but it will be. So we might as well have somebody run for it, and we do. Matt, thanks for joining the Ron Show, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So I remember when we talked after the city council race had ended, and you had asked me, should I do it? And I'm like, I give the advice that my friend Melita Easters gives to anybody who asks. Go sit in a session for an entire day and then decide for yourself if that's what you want to do. Unfortunately, you wanted to make the decision in a timely manner, and General Assembly session wasn't in. But since then, have you gone to the Capitol and sat through a session and had any second thoughts? Because it's like finding out how the sausage is made, right?
Yeah, it's not pretty, but no, I did not have any second thoughts whatsoever. It actually re-energized me about why I'm running. Our state right now is, especially as a Democrat in our state, we're at a tipping point, and we have the opportunity with the right people in office to really make differences. We're seeing seats get flipped every day, and that Republican majority dwindle down. And hopefully 2026 is the year that maybe the Democrats can take back enough seats to flip it in our favor. But there's still fights to be had and compromises to be made. And that's why I'm running. And the things that I ran for Atlanta City Council, the reasons, housing affordability, reliable transit options, making sure we have strong public schools. Those are all things that still happen. So I'm re-energized. It didn't deter me after sitting there for a few days and popping in and out.
Yeah, that was my next question, actually, to ask you, like, what sort of core issues or principles do you transition from running for a city council position to running for the state house? And how do you manage to rewire yourself in some ways to know that your vote isn't just for your constituency and isn't just for a pocket of the city of Atlanta, but actually has to serve the greater good of the entire state?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I was on your show last time, we talked about how a citywide, post one seat could affect the state as a whole. And I still believe that. I believe building those coalitions with people outside of Metro Atlanta, representatives down in Statesboro and LaGrange and, outside of our core bubble here in Atlanta, is important to make sure we get the things needed for Atlanta and Metro Atlanta done. So yeah, I think it's all still the same things. It's, fighting for good transit. It's making sure that corporate investment of single family homes is limited. And that's hurting neighborhoods out in rural Georgia as much as it is here in central, northeast Georgia and Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find myself showing rental homes all the time. In fact, I had a situation here a couple of weeks ago where we just could not get the company to respond to my client's interest in leasing a place. And I mean, that's frustrating in and of itself when you're dealing with a corporate entity. But then, I'll go to send her other options and she'll say, is that the same company? It looks like it might be a listing from and sure enough, it's frustrating. It's not just that they're holding on to properties to profit off of, but that they're also just super difficult to work with and don't deal with their tenants in a timely manner when it comes to making repairs. We've had a lot of coverage on that issue just here in Atlanta. And as you mentioned, it's happening statewide. I mean, I'm showing these places outside the city of Atlanta aplenty.
Yeah, and we're starting to see, some Republicans, some neighborhoods and Republican strongholds start to feel those pinches too. So, last session there were some housing bills that were brought up, and hopefully this session it'll get a little stronger. And once I'm elected, it'll be a key priority for me. I'm focused on making sure families are building our neighborhoods, not bankrolls.
Me too. As a realtor, I say amen. I've gone to a few of the gubernatorial candidates' rallies in recent weeks. I was at Rural Romans here a few weeks ago, Jason Esteves last night. The enthusiasm is definitely there in all of these camps, and I think that's a common thread. Obviously, it's important that, once the primary season's over with, we all coalesce behind whoever the nominees are for those various statewide positions. What sort of enthusiasm are you feeling on the ground when you're out there canvassing District 62?
Yeah, it's the same. It's obviously District 62 makes up South Atlanta. So it's Grant Park, Peoplestown, Summerhill, South Atlanta, Lakewood, and then it stretches down into College Park and East Point. And it's the same things I'm hearing from people. They're excited for the candidates. They're energized. They're ready to make sure that we have a strong majority. I'm excited to see this many candidates running for governor and lieutenant governor and attorney general. And, it gives us a breadth of different viewpoints that we can choose from. And, I think it'll be great for us as a party, and then coalesce behind whoever on May 19th is, selected as our candidates.
What are the issues that come up most when you do talk to people? I mean, obviously we've covered housing affordability and transit and education, but is there anything that sort of surprised you that's come out of the mouths of folks that you talked to so far?
Specifically for my district, it is housing, it is healthcare. Outside of Grady, there's not another hospital down to Union City.
Yeah.
So you're at a real risk if you have a heart attack. And so it's making sure we're expanding Medicaid so that more people can get on on that program. It's making sure that people can just afford to live day to day. There's been a little bit of talk about the state income tax being eliminated and how we will make up. Those are the diehards that, who are truly dialed in. But there are those people out there that are concerned how our public schools are going to get funded if we're stripping away our main source of revenue for the state. So it's those things. It's day to day, the big issues that focus everybody's kitchen table issues.
Your district, by the way, District 62 is a really diverse area when you think about it. You mentioned going from Grant Park to College Park, and I mean that is income spectrum, that is ideological spectrum in some pockets, that is race, that is gender. I mean, that is a really diverse. I know people think, oh, that's a totally Dem district, and yeah, it likely is, but it's still a coalition of a mosaic of people.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that's, I think it's great because we have various income levels, we have various education levels, but the needs are all still the same. It's still people fighting every day to make sure that their kids are getting a little bit better off than they had. And that's not something we've had in our state or in our country for a little while. And it's something that I'm focused on. I'm a child of the public school system. My mom and my sister are both public school teachers. So public school and funding of our public schools is super important for me. But it's also making sure that we're giving them quality education too. It's not just funding the schools. So those are the things that I keep hearing. And whether you're in Grant Park or you're in College Park or East Point, it's the same things. It's let's make sure our schools are funded and getting good results. And let's make sure we have transit options. This area is heavily reliant on public transportation, yet the state gives MARTA no funding. So it's those things. How do I get to and from work? How do I provide for my children? And how do I make the world just a little bit better place for the people that come after me?
So obviously it's cold as sin outside, and we'll be cold as sin this weekend. There's the threat of freezing rain. How easy is it to convince people to go out there and volunteer for you in Canvas?
We will always take more volunteers. So if you're listening to this, you can go to mattrinker.com to sign up to help volunteer. But, right now it's a core group of supporters and volunteers that we have going, knocking on doors. We'd always like more, but it's tough sometimes. But especially with Atlanta, seeing that we have an election or a special election every other week, it feels
exhausting, my God.
Yeah. People have that fatigue, and I get it from everything that's happening in Washington all the way down. But the people who are energized, who are really, motivated to see change, they're still coming out. And I've door knocked for other campaigns when after the city council race and saw half dozen people out there from time to time knocking on doors. There's people who are motivated. Young people. I've seen the young people really showing up. There's some college groups that are trying to mobilize and keep their student bodies engaged as well. So I think it's exciting.
Your district sort of hugs the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, too. I'm just sitting here noticing that without it actually encompassing it because nobody lives there. But, Hartsfield-Jackson is, vital to not just the city, but, of course, to the state and to the region. You talk about transit and the need to make sure that we have enough of it in and around not just your district, but throughout the state. But talk a little bit about the need to tie the rest of the state to Hartsfield-Jackson in a way that's more cogent, other than, hey, let's add another lane to I-75. And by the way, you've got to pay for it if you use it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's great to add more lanes, I guess, the governor believes, but I'm a big believer in public transit. So getting a good high-speed rail that connects up to downtown or the airport from Savannah, from LaGrange, so that people can get out of their cars and they're not having to leave 7 hours early to get to Hartsfield just in case there's an accident along the interstate. I'm a big believer. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. And so when I go home to see my parents, I take the train. I'd fly into Reagan National Airport and take the commuter train down to where they live about an hour south of the city. It's something that we're lacking here. Yeah. The ability to fly in someplace and not have to pay an exorbitant amount to park at the airport and then, get in and out. It's something that we have the opportunities to do. We have a budget surplus right now. And I think there's far greater things. Yeah, $250 rebate for everybody is great for one time, but there's bigger projects we can be doing if we think strategically.
Yeah, I like getting a little money back too, but I really like not having to spend 3 times as much, having a tire and or a rim replaced because we didn't take care of our infrastructure, or that I had another option to get to the airport if I wanted to.
Right.
You also mentioned on your site at mattrinker.com, Public Safety and Rebuilding Community Trust. Obviously, in Atlanta, the conversation for the last couple of years had centered around an Atlanta public safety training facility. Really not much more to say about that since the facility is already open and our police department is training there. But obviously, building that trust again is sort of important. And that's not just an Atlanta thing. That is a statewide and a national thing. And finding ways to solve crime. We had Dr. John Eves on from the Fulton County Commission when he was the chair a couple decades ago. Talk a little bit about investing more in crime prevention tactics that don't include just locking people up or having to build a new $1.5 billion jail facility in Fulton County. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, we've got to clear out our backlogs of in the courts. A lot of people are sitting in our county jails that are just waiting for a court date, and they've sat there longer than whatever the punishment for their crime would have been. So we've got to clear that backlog out. We've got to have funding for those. On top of that, you're right. Absolutely. Crime prevention does not mean more sirens. It should mean more investment in programs to stop crime. So that starts with our youth, making sure we're having really robust youth programs so that kids can find avenues outside of being at home and getting into mischief or being recruited to get into mischief. Mm-hmm. It means also helping our unhoused population with wraparound services and, making sure they're able to get off the street and have shelter and have, support services. It's crime prevention is not just about policing. It's part of it, of course, but it's also about how we service our citizens in the meantime to stop crime from happening in the first place.
The quick liberal checklist. I want to make sure you're all about healthcare expansion. Obviously, Medicaid expansion would be a priority for you. You'd be right there with the rest of the party on that, right? If that were to come to fruition, if we had a governor in office.
Yeah, absolutely. That and repealing the 6-week abortion ban.
Right. And voting rights, access to the ballot. Obviously, we can't even hand out a bottle of water to anybody, let alone make sure that we have enough polling places open. In that district that you're running for in particular, I mean, we've seen an evisceration of polling places, of course, in majority minority districts. Anything near a college campus, gets moved, all by design. Those sorts of things. We've seen a drawback of early voting and drop-off boxes. Just anything that the right can do to make it harder to vote, they're all about.
Yeah, and making sure our state election board is as chaotic as possible as well.
Yeah, there is that as well. All right, mattrinker.com is the site to go to if you want to learn more about Matt running for State House District 62. If you'd like to volunteer, contribute to his campaign, again, that's mattrinker.com. Dude, thanks for stepping up and making the run, and best of luck to you here in the primary. Do you have a primary opponent right now? I don't know if there's anybody that's announced. But anyway, best of luck to you in the primary, and we'll be ready for you in the general should you win that as well, all right?
Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us.
All right, bye-bye.
Just for a little behind the scenes, if you're not in Georgia, but you listen to the show routinely, we are under the threat of freezing rain, ice, potentially some snow in the northern reaches of Georgia, and we don't handle it too well. History shows that Atlanta does not handle this very well. I think back to the blizzard of '93, and I think back to, was it 2013, 2014? We had a snowpocalypse when then Atlanta Brave first baseman Freddie Freeman got stuck on the interstate like a lot of folks did and had to be rescued on a four-wheeler by his teammate Chipper Jones to get home. We don't handle this well. We also don't have the mass transit to help people handle it better. I keep bringing up my friend Nick, who he and Caroline run the Utley Law Firm. Nick was, I think, living in like Fayetteville or Noonan or something like that, and his office was on the north end of the metro. But he would drive into town, park at the airport, I want to say, and take MARTA all the way up to get to his office, rather than deal with the jam-to-jam traffic. Brilliant. It's also cheaper to buy a house southwest, southeast, south of Atlanta, right? He used MARTA to get around it while folks had to abandon their vehicles for days on end because of the snow. We don't handle it very well. But the closer we get to this Ice-mageddon or ice apocalypse, whatever we're going to call it, there'll be some name for it. It looks more and more like we're being spared the worst of it. However, because we're heading into a weekend, I work in real estate. I got people who have closed their offices at 1:00 today. Ain't nothing dropping. There's nothing coming down right now. It's a cool, not cold day in Metro Atlanta, and everybody's done taking their half day. I mean, they were doing it anyway. Let's be honest. Friday afternoons. You remember when you were in college? Those of you who went to college, how like Friday classes, nobody went. It's kind of gotten like that now, where we chortle at the French. Oh, they only work 4 days a week. Hey, America, we being honest with ourselves here? Those of you Monday through Friday 9 to 5ers, are you really doing much work on Friday afternoon? And we've already got cancellations ahead for Monday too. Okay. So we're doing this. We already just had a shortened work week because of the King holiday this week for many of us. And now we're going to. Okay. I don't know. I'm not complaining about this. Let people do what they're going to do. I will read this to you. We reported on this story. Gosh, how long ago is this? A month or two ago. Patty Duran, who's been on the show, she's a clean energy advocate, former Democratic candidate for the Public Service Commission. She was accused of stealing a booklet labeled as containing trade secrets during an energy regulatory meeting. It turns out, though, she's not going to be indicted. Fulton County District Attorney's Office, the Fani Willis office, has formally declined to prosecute the case. Her prerogative. Alonda Roca at Georgia Recorder reporting that the decision was filed Wednesday in Fulton County Superior Court. Duran, who founded a watchdog organization called Georgians for Affordable Energy, frequent critic of the Public Service Commission, charged with one felony count of theft of trade secrets following an incident at a Public Service Commission meeting in October. Okay, it was that long ago. Duran was captured on video. This was not smart. Picking up the booklet during a lunch break. And you can see in the video, she's like, oh, what is this? And then thumbing through it and realizing what it was, put it down and walked away and then came back and got it. Wasn't a good look. I said it then, I'll say it now. The original charge would have carried a penalty of up to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $50,000. Anyway, the district attorney's office in Fulton County were like, we got bigger fish to fry. And if you aren't going to let us prosecute the trial, no, I'm just saying. If there's a message to be sent, then okay, political indifference. Duran said, although I am pleased with the outcome of my particular case, Georgia Power customers deserve more transparency and accountability in proceedings at the Georgia Public Service Commission. The extensive redactions and trade secrets Georgia's commissioners allow are outside of regulatory norms and continue to harm Georgia Power customers. It's wrong, and it needs to end. Alonda Roca continues, the district attorney's office in the filing highlighted several legal shortcomings in the case, saying that the arrest warrant fails to claim that Duran actually intended to steal anything from Georgia Power or that the booklet contained any information that was a protected, valuable secret. Also, they just left it on this desk in a hearing room. It's not like she walked in and the room was empty. There was nobody paying attention to her. It was just right out there. Matthew Kent, a spokesperson for Georgia Power, pointed to a previous statement saying that confidential data is meant to protect customers' interests. I don't understand that. Like, was my account number on there? My socials? My contact information? He said that revealing trade secrets can harm their business operations. Oh, I bet. Fulton County prosecutors also wrote that 2 people were tasked with supervising the protected information, but they were not paying attention at the time of the incident. Yes. They also found that Duran's actions didn't financially hurt the utility. Georgia Power further confirmed that the defendant's taking of the booklet did not result in any actual financial harm to Georgia Power. So, Fani Willis' office said, just not feeling it. And that's their prerogative. Fulton County prosecutors also said that Duran voluntarily returned the notebook on the same day it was taken. Warren also failed to establish that the information inside the booklet was, quote, subject to efforts that were reasonable under the circumstances to maintain its secrecy, or that the information was, quote, not commonly known by or available to the public. Get this, though, as part of the resolution, Patty completed a 4-hour theft awareness class. Oh, my God. And on that note, and with literally 90 seconds left, I got to tell you, I'm officially out of gas. I am wiped out. This has been a busy week. Real estate closing, another listing under contract, 5 days of shows. And I mean, the news cycle is just unrelenting. But I want to thank everyone who listened to the show. I want to thank everyone who took the time to come on the show. We have a big slate already next week. Again, right now, the marquee guest would be Jeff Duncan. You know, I've been trying to chase that down, and he's coming onto the Ron Show next Tuesday. Very much looking forward to that conversation. And for those who think, oh, you're just going to be mean to him, or you're going to be... No. I'm just going to ask a lot of the same questions that I ask other candidates. But in his case, because he's new to the party, I feel as if we don't make people take an authenticity test, strap them to a lie detector. Ooh. We don't do that. We don't make them take Democratic Party history and platform appreciation courses and then pass a test or anything like that. Although, it wouldn't be bad either. We're going to take him at his word. And I'm looking forward to talking with him. I'm sure it's going to be cordial. I'm sure it'll be very informative. And who knows? He may even change my mind. That's what he's got to do. He's got to change minds, right? Y'all have a great weekend. Be safe. We'll see you Monday. 4 to 6 p.m. Georgia Now, 8 to 10 a.m. the following day. The replay, 11 p.m. Progressive Voices via TuneIn or wherever you podcast.